Good morning, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Ranking the Albums. Today, once again, in the co-captain's chair, Mr. Rich Catino. Good morning. How are you?
Morning. How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. We're going to talk a little Winger today.
Yes.
So Winger is a band who've been around since the late 80s. They don't have a ton of studio albums in their
Right.
discography because we've got some like long gaps in between here and
Yeah.
there. But
Yeah.
one of those bands, and Rich and I were just talking about this before we went on the air, that I think unfairly gets kind of lumped into a certain category. When most people think of the band, they hear the name, they're like, oh, another
Yeah.
one of those hair metal bands from the 80s who had all those crappy power ballads and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And actually, band's a lot better than that and deserves a lot better than that, I think. Really musical
Yes.
band, great guitar work, great lyrics, great vocals, tight musicianship. And did they have some
Yeah.
commercial success? Yep. But
That's fine.
it's not necessarily a bad thing, right?
No, it's not. Look at Twisted Sister when they put out "We're Not Going to Take It." You know, that was huge for them. But if you listen to Under the Blade and You Can't Stop Rock and Roll, that's heavy metal.
Yeah.
It might be, glammy at times, maybe sound wise and hook wise, but those first two albums are heavy metal through and through.
I agree. And there's a lot of really good hard rock and metal in this catalog. Amazing vocals throughout all the albums, whether we're talking about, the most recent album in 2014 or going back to the beginning. You got Rod Morgenstein on drums, right? From the Dixie Dregs. Amazing player.
He's if I'm right, Berkeley guy, right? Music?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Top-notch player. And I mean, Red Beach is a phenomenal guitar player. And for those of you who've been following, listening to Whitesnake for the last number of years, I mean, he's obviously the main guy in Whitesnake, right? And has been for a long time. Played in Dokken briefly. I mean, Red is a serious player. And then you got Kip Winger on top of it all, right? Great bass player, phenomenal singer, good songwriter. It's a very talented band.
Yeah, and he's currently working on music for a Broadway show, but he's done that stuff before, and he's done classical music. I think he won a couple of awards for that.
Yep.
So he's no joke as a composer.
Yeah, exactly. So we got some good albums here, and Rich and I were just talking about how there's really no weak albums in this catalog. So, even if an album may come at the bottom of this list, doesn't mean it's a bad album. And that's kind of, as I've been going through these over the last week or so, it's like, geez, these are all really good. How do you rank these, right? It's like, but got to rank them somehow, right? So I'm going to have.
And if you're judging them off of 17 and a couple ballads because you think they're wimpy, or a couple of MTV videos, then you don't deserve an opinion. Your opinion means nothing because you didn't listen to the last 3 or 4 albums that they put out.
I would say 4. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Because the 4 albums that came after those first 2 were pretty serious, heavy albums and quite rocking, even a tad progressive at times. And I mean, it's a pretty serious band that, again, I think they got labeled with a tag early on, and they really were never about all that, other than they were recording in the same era as a lot of those other bands. So
and they did have a lot of common. They did. They all had common things. They had great riffs. They had big hooks, big harmonies, melodic vocals. It was all part of why those bands became so successful.
Yeah, and they look good too, right? I mean, let's face it, right?
What's that?
They look good too. I mean, they had the look.
Yeah, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with being good looking. Yeah. But you can't fault the band and punish them for that.
Yeah,
it's all about the music. And like I said, if you're judging them just off of 1 or 2 songs and it's a ballad and a rock song that's poppy, then you're just not deserved to have that opinion.
Got to listen to the whole catalog. Got to give it a chance, right? That's what we're here to talk about today. Yeah,
just like Europe, like you said about them. Same thing.
Yeah. I have so many people I've talked to like, oh, I can't stand Europe. It's like, really, why? It's like, oh, I hate that Final Countdown song. It's like, well, that's like one song out of like what 15 albums, and none of their other material sounds like that. So you really, you can't say you hate the band if you only know 1 or 2 songs. And if you listen to all the rest of their catalog, it's serious hard rock and metal. And if you like classic bands, I mean, it's not much different, right? So.
Exactly.
Kind of similar to this. All right. So we're going to talk about their 6 albums and rank them in some kind of order. And I think for everybody who maybe, like I said, is only really familiar with a couple of those 80s hits or the videos or whatever, give some of these albums a listen because they're really, really
absolutely
cool. So,
educate yourself.
Yes, that's right. So Rich, what do you got for number 6?
I put in fourth one that came out in 2006. So Pull came out in 93. So it was 13 years before they made new music.
Yep.
So it's not that 4 is bad. I just put it at number 6 because it's kind of that album that is a transition album. And it was a concept album too. It was Kip wrote it about the soldiers overseas. So it's very dark. It's kind of progressive. It's moody. It doesn't have the catchiness and the kind of the simplicity of the first 2 albums. But it has the sound and the songwriting, I would say, from Pull. So Pull kind of carries over into what 4 became. So it's darker. They changed their tuning on how their guitars are tuned so that the songs are a little deeper and heavier, the riffs. It's still enjoyable, but it's definitely an acquired taste if you're a Winger fan. But it's a good lesson in what Winger evolved into.
Yeah, and I think a good lesson of what they could do, right? If they wanted to be a little more serious, and I find like a lot of most of their latter albums are kind of along those same lines, and it's not a bad thing. I think it's a pretty good thing, actually.
No, yeah, it shows their growth. It shows the next step. Like I said, after Pull.
Yep.
But still enjoyable. You just have to be in the mood for it. One Day Like Today has a very Pull type of a ballad feel, I thought. Your Great Escape is a good rocker. Right Up Ahead is darker. It's very kind of Sabbathy, I thought, too, in the verses. That first song. Blue Suede Shoes has that proggy opening, and it's got that guitar bass interplay going on.
Yep.
4 Leaf Clover is upbeat, and then Generica and Disappeared are moody and dark too. It's almost got moments of kind of grunge a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. I think there's kind of like an Alice in Chains kind of moodiness going throughout this whole album.
Yeah, a little bit.
Which again, not necessarily a bad thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not trying to be grunge, but it's the next step after Pull, and it's a kind of a darker Winger, and more serious.
Yep, I agree. Good album though.
Yeah, yep.
We'll get to that in a minute. My number 6 is going to be their 2014 release, which is the last one they've done. Better Days Coming. Again, another good album. It kind of dark. You got Queen Babylon, which is a terrific song, pretty heavy. Out of This World is a good emotional rocker. I dig that. Rat Race is a pretty crazy song.
Oh,
good,
yeah.
Furious hard rock. It's almost like thrashy at times, right? Lots of
that's a great. That's a great up-tempo rocker like Poison Angel off the first album.
Yeah. Lots of twin leads, they'll love the guitar work on this album is really, really good. There's some really strong tracks on here. I think my only issue with Better Days Coming is like, it's not quite as immediate as some of the other albums. Like it's not just half the songs are really, really good. The other half are solid, but they're just not as kind of memorable as some of their other albums, but it's not a weak album by any means. For me, I haven't connected with it as much as some of the other albums, I think, but there's some really good stuff on there. And you know what, to think we're at, it's like 30 years later, they're still putting out really, really good music. Right. And I think, will we see another Winger album at some point? We shall see. Right. I wouldn't put it past them.
Point. I think they're actually working on something. I remember
that wouldn't surprise me.
That.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens. All right. Back to you for number 5.
Okay. 5, I got Karma. That was the one that came after 4, right? Yeah, it came after 4. Again, that darker guitar sound. It's tuned down. Even I was looking at the tabs for it. Come a Little Closer is drop C. So it's definitely got a heavier, thicker guitar sound on this album. So it complements 4, I think, but it's a little more getting back to where kind of Pull was, and maybe even In the Heart of the Young a little bit at times. It doesn't have that brightness to it, but it's back to maybe the catchier songs, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, I think they tried very specifically to bring some of those hooks back in, and I think it works.
Yeah, like Let's see. Deal with the Devil and Stone Cold Killer are great.
Oh yeah.
They still play those live. What else? Pull Me Under is great. Very heavy. Supernova is really cool. Got a nice melody and a harmony going on. Feeding Frenzy is really dark. And Big World Away too is also kind of heavier too and darker, like Come a Little Closer. So yeah, it's 10 songs, and it's totally enjoyable through and through. It just doesn't have still some of those elements that you're looking for from even Pull, I would say. So that's why I put it at my number 5. So I still like it, but I don't think I skip songs here and there once in a while, maybe like After All This Time and Witness and Always With Me, but they're not bad. But if I'm looking for, an winger album that I want to listen to maybe from the beginning to the end, it's maybe not Karma. Gotcha. But more than 4 though, I would say.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Good stuff though.
Yep, absolutely.
My number 5 is going to be 4 from 2006. Big return after 13 years. Like I said, it's kind of a concept album, giving you the perspective of a soldier who's stationed overseas, told in their perspective. I think kind of a cool concept. I think in this case it kind of works, whereas Queensryche's American Soldier I didn't think really worked that well. I think this is much better. But you're right. It's heavy and dark.
I don't think anything after Here in the Now Frontier, right? I don't think anything after that really worked too well until Todd came in the band.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I totally agree.
Yeah, so go ahead. I'm sorry.
But I mean, you mentioned a lot of the good songs, like Blue Suede Shoes, I think is a really good song. Great Kip vocal. Right Up Ahead is heavy and crunchy. I dig that. I liked M16 a lot. That's another good song. It's got kind of almost like a prog medley type of feel to it with
it is
big guitar work. Your Great Escape is pretty headbanging as well. Disappear is a good track. Living Just to Die is another heavy song. Short Flight to Mexico, also really good with some crazy guitar solo. And Generica.
That song is a very different riff for that album too, that Red plays.
Yeah.
Amongst all the other riffs on that song, that album, that song just has a totally different feel.
It does, but I think like they injected a lot of like weird different stuff on this album, which could be good or bad depending on what your take on this band is, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned Generica. I think that's kind of the most 80s-ish sounding tune for me on the album. I think it's a good one too.
Really?
But I like this album. I think it's good. It's it's got the kind of comic booky artwork and stuff all over it. I dig it. It's a little bit of a different album for them. I agree, but different is okay. And I don't mind the serious side to this band as well as I like the more kind of upbeat side. I think they both work really well. And some of these latter period albums, they try to mix both worlds together.
Yes.
To some a little more successful than others. But I dig 4. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, which I think they did on Better Days. When I get to that, I'll mention that.
All right, back to you. Number 4.
Okay, number 4, In the Heart of the Young. So this is the second album. When did this come out? 1990.
Yeah.
Couple great songs that were singles: Easy Come, Easy Go, Can't Get Enough, the ballad, Miles Away. 3 great songs.
Yep.
Can't Get Enough is so like a strip club song. Love it. That's awesome. And Easy Come, Easy Go is such a great arena anthem.
Oh, yeah.
So you can't go wrong with those. And then You Are the Saint, I'm the Sinner shows like that progressive stuff that they started getting into.
Yeah.
Same thing with The Rainbow and the Rose.
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely shows their range. So if people think that they're just like we were saying, like a 17 ballad type of band, they're not. You can tell that on the second album. Even Little Dirty Blonde and Baptized by Fire, which have a little bit of kind of spunk and a little pizzazz to them.
Yep.
Even those 2 songs, so it definitely shows them growing. And Loosen Up too. Loosen Up is really funky.
Loosen Up is really good. Yeah, it's got tons of groove on it. Yep.
And at this time too, they did that MTV Plugged, and that really showed them what they could do, because they did a couple songs from this album in the first one.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. It's my number 4 as well.
Yeah.
I like this album. I remember, when this came out, I remember buying the LP and like I had dug the first album quite a bit, and I think for a lot of people, this album was maybe a little too similar. Not necessarily a bad thing, right? But a lot of really great songs on here. And you mentioned, all the singles were, I think, really, really good. Easy Come, Easy Go has like hooks for miles, right? Can't Get Enough is kick ass, a lot of fun. Miles Away is a great power ballad, man. There's no way to deny it. In The Day We'll Never See, again, you got some prog elements coming into a couple songs in here, like you mentioned. So, but I think it's maybe a couple too many ballads on the album.
Yeah, possibly. under One Condition and the title track are too mellow as well. And then you got In the Day We'll Never See and Rainbow in the Rose and Miles Away. So it is a little soft at points, too much.
But man, some killer guitar work on the album, and I think Kip just sounds phenomenal. I mean, he's just—I don't think he gets enough credit, as being the great vocalist that he is. So I think it's a very, very good record. Just maybe not as good as the debut.
Right. Agreed.
All right, back to you for number 3.
Okay. Number 3, going with Better Days Coming. So you were saying before how these later albums, they try and incorporate a little bit more of the first 2 albums as they're moving along. So I think they really did that with Better Days. That's why I like it better than Karma. Midnight Driver of a Love Machine. That's a really cool opener. It's showing their proggy side again there a little bit. Queen Babylon, Storm and Me are really good, heavy riff-driven rockers. Rat Race is really kick-ass. It's very much like Poison Angel, upbeat, hard rocker. Better Days Coming, the title track, is a nice laid-back jam. That's very cool. Ever Wonder, So Long China, again, really cool songs. And Tin Soldier is probably their most proggy thing on this album. But this is very cool. I think it's a good balance between the first 2 albums and Pull and Karma. I think it's a little bit of everything. So that's why I put it at my number 3. Cool. I really like this one.
Can't argue that. Can't argue it. I got my number 3 is Karma. I like the heaviness of this album. I think that's probably why it's ranking so high for me. And they're trying to bring some of the hooks back, but they haven't let up at all on the kind of the heaviness of the post In the Heart of the Sun material, I think. And, Deal with the Devil is a killer opener. Great song. Stone Cold Killer is also killer. That could be.
That's a great 1-2 punch.
It's probably one of the best they've ever done, I think, to kick off an album, right? Arguably. Big World Away is great. Supernova is also really heavy. Always Within Me's got some really, really good hooks to it. I kind of like the bluesy After All This Time, which is a little bit different for the band, I thought. And then Witness is another great song. It's got some sizzling guitar solos and like extended solos, which I dig. I don't know. It's got a lot. This album's got a lot of songs. It's a little on the longer side, but I like the production. I love the guitar sound on here. I think the whole band is just really killing it. And I don't know. I've enjoyed this quite a bit since it came out in 2009. So that's my number 3.
All right. Okay, number 2, going with the debut. So the self-titled one from 1988. So 17 is whatever. When I heard it, it was fine. I didn't love it. I thought the middle section with the solo was better than the song itself.
Yeah.
Because it does that change and Reb just tears into it. It's a little bit heavier. So I like that better than the rest of the song itself. So that song alone, I didn't judge them just on that song. Because then when you heard Hungry and Madeleine, that was awesome. That's where they really kicked it into overdrive. And they balanced out those heavy riffs with a big hook and a big melody. And then the solo section. Those 2 are really great balanced songs. Like those are like 2 of my all-time favorites, I think, from that. State of Emergency, Time to Surrender is also another longtime favorite of mine, and Poison Angel as well. And Headed for a Heartbreak is a great ballad. Very cool. And the whole ride out that Red does with the leads are just so tasteful and well placed and well phrased. And when he does it live, he does it the same way too.
And you know, it's, you hate to say it because it was from their first album, but probably one of the best like extended guitar solos he's ever done.
Yes.
Especially in
Yeah.
Winger. And yeah, it's amazing, right? That whole like final 2 minutes,
Yeah.
just like, oh, like
Yeah.
you don't want it to end, right?
Right. I think this album would be perfect if you took off 17. It's like Warren's Cherry Pie. If you took off the title track, the album Cherry Pie is a great album top to bottom. You just got to get rid of that poppy song. So if you got rid of 17 and an unnecessary cover, Purple Haze.
Yeah, it's it. Yeah, that was not needed at all.
Yeah, that's the only thing I was like, why is this here? This doesn't need to be here.
Yeah.
So you get rid of those two, and this is a perfect album.
Yeah.
You know, you got 8 songs that top to bottom, it's great.
Yep.
You know, they could actually, what they should have done, 1 or 2 of those, if you have their, I think it was called Anthology or something like that, where they have all their, oh my God, the demos and everything, the unpolished versions of these songs.
Oh yeah, that I don't have. Yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about.
Anthology. I have to look that up, but they have a one of those albums that has songs from the first 3 albums, and there's a few leftovers that they didn't put on the first album. If they would have put 2 or 3 of those on there instead, this would have been a perfect debut.
Yeah, I think it's an expanded edition of this, right?
Yes, I'm trying to look it up now. I forgot what year it came out. I'm looking at their discography, but it's great. It's 2 discs, and it's raw, unpolished versions of a lot of the songs from the first 2 albums. Yes, it's called Demo Anthology.
Got you.
So if they would have put on like, let's see what's on here. Like there's a song Skin Tight, All I Ever Wanted, Never, a few things that would just didn't make it to the albums. And if they would have put 1 or 2 of those on there, I think it would have been a perfect debut.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's my number 2 also. For all the reasons you said. Yeah, it's a really good album. I listened to it a ton when it first came out. Yeah, and I remember like I think the first time that I ever heard Winger was obviously the video for 17, because that was like all over the place. Like all of a sudden one day there it was, and they didn't take it out of rotation for a while. And I remember thinking, well, this is kind of like a silly juvenile Van Halen-ish type song, right? Because the riff is kind of Eddie-ish, right? And then the solo is like, whoa, that's what I always wanted to hear from that song. I couldn't have done without the rest of it. But yeah, Heading for Heartbreak is just killer. And I love Madeleine and Hungry also. And you know, Hanging On is another good show. I mean, it's just one great song after another on there. So I dig it. And you know, it's funny, you listen to it today and it holds up pretty well. And it's a really well-produced album, and the guitar work is really crunchy. The vocals are great. You know, Rod Morgenstein, you know, say what you want. I know like a lot of prog fans are like, oh, like he's so great in the Dixie Dregs. I can't believe he wastes his time in Winger, but man, he's so tight in this band and he holds everything together really, really well.
If you, like we said, if you listen to Winger, really listen to Winger, you'll see his talent and everybody else's. And then if you see them live, forget it. They're going to blow your mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the production of this, it sounds so good because it's Beau Hill. Yep.
He did both the first 2 albums, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Let me see. Let's see, I'm going there.
It's funny because I've read that he actually wanted them to get a little lighter and more commercial sounding, and that's why he is not the producer for the 3rd album, because they wanted to go kind of in a different direction.
Yeah. Yes, he did produce the second one too. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, those 2 albums sound very similar. They
do. Similar. Yeah.
Well, I guess we know what both of our number 1's going to be.
Exactly, and it should be number 1 for everybody else too, because it's a great, perfect, well-balanced, mature Winger album. Just a great hard rock with a metal edge album. Yeah. You know?
And it's just too bad that Pull came out in 1993, because, you know, grunge and alternative is all the rage. This type of music is not anymore. And I think that the people who really liked all the hit type stuff from the first 2 albums heard this album and they're like, wait a second, where's all the catchy hooks and all that kind of stuff? Well, didn't really need it here.
There.
Yeah, they're there.
Yeah. Like, let's see, like A Ritual, No Man's Land, In My Veins, The Spell I'm Under. I think they're catchy.
Yeah, but maybe not catchy like those first 2 albums. I think they're more mature.
Yeah, but even Down Incognito, the single.
Oh yeah, well that they tried to push that. Yeah.
And that was very catchy.
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah, that was the one they really tried to push. I think they were like, this may be the only track like that we've got on this album. So the label and MTV were like, well, we got to really push this. We got to really push this, and even that is still, it's kind of bluesy, it's kind of moody, right? Which a lot of this album is,
Yes.
but like,
Yeah.
Spell I'm Under's got the big like Def Leppard style chorus,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Again,
Yep.
maybe a few years too late. I don't know.
And Junkyard Dog is nice and heavy, that riff.
Oh, Junkyard Dog is great.
Opening riff, and the bonus track, Hell to Pay, is great too.
It is, yeah.
The bonus track.
Yep.
But Who's the One, that acoustic track, the last song, is so amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so cool. Even the lyrics, if you listen to the lyrics, like I'm looking at it right now. When all the colors begin to fade and the limitations turn to gray, when the Iron Man begins to rust and the holy water turns to dust. I mean, this is not 17 and all these other songs that people think that that's all they are.
Not even close.
Totally not that, So if anybody's looking for a Winger album to figure out what Winger's about, this is the album to pick.
Yeah, because it's probably what they're all about. If you were to ask them that this is them, right?
Yeah. And I really like No Man's Land a lot. That's one of my favorites.
No Man's Land is great. Like a Ritual is great. In My Veins is another great song too.
Yeah. Spell 'Em Under's a good ballad.
Yep. It's a good album.
I mean, 10 tracks, no filler, nothing you skip. It's just, but Winger taking what they did, I would say, in the heart of the young, and just being a little more mature. You're not going to get an easy come on here, but that's fine.
Yeah. And I think most like serious Winger fans that I've talked to over the years always cite this album as their favorite.
Yeah.
Amazing how many people go back to this one.
That's
the
good.
ones who have followed them all throughout, right?
Yeah. Well, I saw them recently. I saw them 2 years ago. I want to say it's 2 years now, in PA, and they played one of the casinos there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like the best show I've ever seen them do. They were so tight. They're always tight anyway, but it was like you'd be listening to a backing track. That's how awesome it was.
Wow. How did that show draw? Did a lot of people there?
Good. It was packed.
Yeah.
Yeah. The place was packed.
Yeah. They still have a pretty big following, which is good to see.
Yeah.
So,
hopefully this new album that they're working on is going to come out soon.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm assuming that'll be Frontiers, right? Because their last 3 have been on Frontiers. I mean, that's just the place for them to be, right?
Yeah. It's a place for melodic hard rock and hard rock heavy metal
That's
bands.
right. All the classic bands. I mean, like this one, which just came out, right? It's like they're all on Frontiers now. It's like crazy.
Yeah, that new song that they put out is really cool too. What's it called again?
Oh, well, which one? That was me, or Box in My Head? I mean,
most recent one where he's singing it, sitting there and he's just talking with the hood on. What's that one? It just came out.
Oh, I think that was Jesus. I'm trying to remember which one just came out because I've seen a couple.
Yeah, it's so new. I don't remember what it's called. But he's singing there, like almost like narrating, and then there's the heavy riff in the song.
It could be That Was Me. That's pretty heavy. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. It's a great album. But so there you have our ranking of the Winger catalog. So curious to see what all you Winger fans think and how you rank the albums. Remember, there's no right or wrong answer here. We all hear these albums differently. So rank them as you like them, all 6, or your top 3, whatever,
But the wrong answer is, if you judge them just on their past, that is your wrong answer.
Yeah.
You're not deserved. You don't deserve to have an answer or a comment if you're just basing them, basing this band off of 2 albums. Come on.
Yeah, true. So give these, I think, the moral of the story here is to give some of these albums a chance. And if you maybe heard the first 2 albums back in the 80s, it wasn't really your thing, definitely give Pull and all the albums since a chance, because they're very different than those first 2 albums. Much heavier, tad progressive in spots, very, darker, moodier. You got your hooks and things, splattered about a lot of the songs, but I think it's definitely different than the self-titled in the second album. So give them a chance. And if you only know 17, you owe it to yourself to explore this band a little bit more than that.
Yes, you're doing your education a disservice.
That's right. So there you have it, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. Rich, you want to give a couple links before we go?
Metalasylum.net I write for, bravewords.com, the Metal Hall of Fame, Am I Evil, based on the Diamond Head song graphic novel, is in the progress of getting done. And I'm coming back here pretty often doing things with you for the album rankings and also, we just did the what is the Monsters Den too.
That's right. That's right.
We did something for horror movies. So
That's
busy,
right.
busy, busy.
Busy, busy, busy. So, Rich will be back in about a week. We're going to rank the catalog of Evergrey, a great Swedish progressive / power / gothic metal band. That's coming up, as well as Rich is going to join me on another Monsters Den, hopefully sometime this week. We're going to be specifically talking about giant monster films. So,
yes, one of my favorites.
That's right.
One of my favorites. It's so hard to pick. There's so many. It's so hard to pick.
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them.
Yep.
So stay tuned, everybody, and we'll see you real soon. We got Martin Popoff coming back on the show this week, and we got the Hudson Valley Squares on Monday night. What else? Oh, Guitar Hack's going to be on the show this week. He and I are going to list off our favorite Ace Frehley guitar solos. That's coming up this week as well, and
very cool.
All sorts of things happening. So stay tuned for all that, and we'll see you all later on. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.